Hi everyone. I'm going to try to show you how some of the formatting and other options work in Excel. So first I'm going to um, change the view if I'm able to. Yeah, there we go, so that it's easier to see. First things first, as you have seen in the PowerPoint for class, Excel is split up into columns, which are alphabetized A, B, C, D, and then rows, which go from 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're numerical. Thus, the address of any cell, and you can always see it right here, is B1 in this case, or E1, or if you look at this, it's C6. So that's how you can identify which cell address is being used, and that is helpful when giving commands to to Excel, or when we are trying to insert formulas, because knowing where the cell that we are looking for exists is a very easy way, especially when you have large data sets. For the formatting functions, if you go to the home screen, you'll see that you have the cut, copy, paste standard functions, a place where you can change the font, bold, italics, underline. You also have this ability to make borders for your tables. You can fill in different cells with different colors, change the color of the text itself. This is helpful when you want to make like a different kind of table, and then you can change the text to red, and now suddenly, to white, and you have things like, here is the example. If you click on the cell, you'll see whatever text is in there will show up by itself, okay? Now, while we're here, I might as well show you how to delete full columns. You just right-click on the column, so highlight it, right-click, and if you delete it, it'll disappear. It'll move everything. Similarly, if I have something written here, and then I want to delete that column, I can click the delete button and delete it this way. The reason why this is better to do than just manually deleting is that if you are using formulas in your Excel sheet, then deletions will automatically adjust the formulas. So you don't have to worry. If you delete it manually, here, let me show you what I mean. Say that the formula uses the cell A14. If I just delete this manually, then whatever is here, which is a blank value, will show up in that formula. On the other hand, if I delete the whole row, that formula will either disappear, say not available, or it'll consider the new cell A14 for its calculations. So we have the alignment. When you enter in numeric data in Excel, it automatically right aligns, but you can center it or you can left align it, depending on what your need is. You can also use headings and then bold it, right? You can create a grid using this option. You can use something like only thick outside borders. Depends on what you want to do. You can fill in, say, to highlight whatever you want to highlight, and basically get familiar with all of these things. Now I want to show you, this is text, and it typically shows up as a general, no number format, right? But now let's go to this number 1. It still shows up as general. Excel does recognize it as a number, but you can choose what you want to do with it. You want a number with decimal spaces, you want to put it as currency, you want to put a percentage, well, you have those options. You can also, for any of these options, remove the number of decimal spaces by just clicking on these things right here. If you want to format a bigger number, for instance, if this number was 10,000, notice it doesn't have the comma, but if you wanted to insert the comma, you could. It's right here. If you wanted to make it a currency, you can just click the currency in front of it, and it allows you to make all those changes. So number formatting is not very difficult. If you want more options, you can always right-click and go to Format Cells and look at how you would like to play around with it, how you would like to represent it. You can just insert it as text. There is the option of customizing it, which is probably a little more advanced than basic Excel, but you do have this choice. Again, you can italicize it. Oh, and while we are here, notice this number was bigger than the column size here. So highlight the column, see where this black plus type of a sign appears, and if you double click it, it'll automatically adjust to be as big as the biggest number in the column. That's very helpful, especially when you have data that looks like this and you're just, everything's like spilling over. You just double click this. And again, you can change the sizes of different rows and columns if you wanted to. You can, if you wanted, if there was this problem, right, where see how the first row is, you can just double click again here and it'll adjust to the right size for holding, showing your full data. You can also, if you're wanting to make a certain kind of table, if you highlight multiple columns together and adjust them to a certain size, they all get resized together. This is particularly helpful when I'm doing things like, PERT CPM modeling, or when I want to make some graphs and stuff that I manually want to create. It kind of gives this graph paper type of look, especially if I tweak it. You can make them as small as you want. So just as an example, I can create a grid depending on how I want it to look. We can make them a little bit bigger so that, okay. So we have gotten that down. Now about putting data in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, and we're going to try to manually enter in data. So I'm just going to call this data entry, and say that I want to start by just showing you a simple insert of 1, 2, 3. Say that I want to enter 15 values. I can now highlight these 1, 2, 3 that I manually entered in and drag it down until I reach 15. Notice that the corresponding cell, or the cell address, is A16, and that's because we've used A1 to put our heading in for data entry. Now, it obviously works with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but if you wanted to put in even numbers, say, then just put the first 3 even numbers, and then when you pull this out, it will automatically allow you to go all the even numbers. So it'll recognize the pattern that you're using for doing this, okay? So data entry, again, I'm gonna try this so that you can get an idea. I am recording this here, so I think my family needs to be quiet, but anyway. So now we've entered this data from 3 to 45. And as you can see, it is in a vertical format. If I wanted to enter this data into columns instead of the rows, then I could highlight this, right click, and then pick copy. And then I can go into 18. And when I click on the right click, if you look under paste special, or if you just look here, you will see that there is an option to transpose it. Transposing something means taking it from a column into a row form. So these numbers, as you can see, got transposed when I did this. The thing to remember is, if I wanted to move this data somewhere, then I would say click cut and then click paste. When you cut the data, you are not allowed to transpose it. So if you want to transpose something, always make sure to use the copy and then the paste special buttons. You can always do the undo button. And as you see, because I had picked that data for doing something with it, basically copying or pasting, Excel is being told, hey, this is the data we are working on right now. Now, if I want to proceed, you'll see that this little green line keeps showing up next to it, and you can hit the escape button, and that basically tells Excel that, I'm done with that data, now let's move on. Now, sometimes when you copy data from other places, you might find that the data looks like this. See where it is all in one. So if I click on M1, you'll see that the data is put in there, but it is not split up, right? So if you try to copy and paste this, Control C, Control V, it still does not go into individual columns. So the way we can change this is, and I'm going to do this because I want to show you how we would work on it on a massive scale. I'm going to Control X, Control V. Those are notes for me to remember what all I need to show you guys. I'm going to delete this where we transpose the data. And now our C has all of this data in it. And the reason why I know that is because when I expand the C, all the data is in the C column. I need them to be in various columns here because I need it in different places. So we can highlight this section, the whole row, and then we go up into data, and then we go to text to columns because it's basically text. And in this case, all of the numbers have been separated by a semicolon. So instead of a fixed width option, which we can use, of course, we can also use a delimited option. And the delimited option allows you to say, all right, there's a semicolon that separates my data. And then I can click next, and I can click finish. And now, as you can see, all my data is now in a grid. See, when I use the all borders, it all got sorted out. One of the things that I want to point out is that when, if instead of all of these, if I just had this one row, right? So let's do this. Let's delete it and start one thing again. So Control C. Now I have this one and I want to change it into regular data. I can do text to columns, delimited, next, next, finish. And now I do have it in different columns, but what if I needed it in rows? Again, we go back to our little transposing trick, Control C or copy, and then go in here and then click transpose. Now it went from being all in a row to being in a column. We can also sort this data. Now this data is already sorted from smallest to largest, but we could sort it in the opposite order. This is smallest to largest right now. And as you can see, it went from largest to smallest, right? By using the Z to A option. You can also, if you have a larger data set, you can also sort it by different categories, which is a slightly, next level thing to learn, but it's pretty important to learn that at some point. Now let's talk about inserting shapes. If you go into the Insert tab, you have a lot of choices. These charts will be covered in a different video later on, but you can insert shapes, and shapes can be very helpful because you can point to things in your sheet. Once you pick a shape, you can choose what you want it to look like. You can change its color, and you can also give it some effects. My son loves doing these things where it's highlighted basically. So you can use these shapes for various things. Also, when you're trying to highlight certain things under graphs, and this will come in later. Notice that when I did not click on it, this is a badly shaped square, right? But I can still use this button right here and make a square, or any shape really, depending on what you need it to be. So one of the things that I have to do when I'm trying to highlight areas under curves is create weird shapes like this. And you can use that. Once you've created it, you can expand it, extend it, whatever you need to do for that. So I think that the next, the next thing that I want to talk about is how to enter formulas in Excel. So I'm going to open up a new sheet. I'm going to take this data with me because it's helpful. And here I have a new sheet, and I'm going to just paste that data. Suddenly became smaller because I was, zoomed in on the other one. Now, what we want to do is we want to learn how to use some of these formulas. So I'm going to put this here. Okay. First thing is, let's call this X variable so that it's easier. And underline it. Okay. Now, say that I wanted to find the square of X. So X squared. One option is to manually, so if you put an equal to sign, it basically opens up the formula option, and it is also calculator option. So I could manually do this. 3 in Excel, multiplication is given by the asterisk and get 9. Or I could just write 6. And then there's a raise to button, which is actually in your keyboard. It's the little inverse V-shaped thing on top of the 6 itself. And that's 6 raised to 2. And it'll give me the formulas. Now, here I manually wrote the 6, right? Now there's a third way, and this way is better because it allows you to copy the formula down to all the other cells. So instead of manually doing this in every single cell, what I could do is put an equal to sign, click this. Now it recognizes it as the address, which is A4, and again raised to 2, and it will give me the square of 9. And now I can just drag it down, and now I have the square of all of the remaining numbers. So I used a formula here, and if you see this formula, when I click in this box up here, you'll see it'll highlight which number has been used, so the A5, right? And because I copied it down, it'll automatically copy down. Now, suppose I wanted to use X squared minus, I'm just going to say 9 because I'm trying to show something here. So say that I wanted to do this x squared minus 9 calculation. Now the number 9, which is given here, is a steady number, right? So what I could do for this would be x squared, right? And then minus, and then instead of writing the 9 manually, which is an option, of course, I can pick this number, highlight the A4, and press F4. When I press F4, these dollar signs means that this cell will not change. So here is 9 minus 9, right? But look, this becomes 36 minus 9, 27, 81 minus 9, which is 72, 144 minus 9, which is 135. So notice that in the formulas that 9 is going to remain constant, right? And whenever you click on the formula, you can see which numbers it is referring to. So we have the squared. Now what if we were interested in the square root of x? And for that, we would simply, we have a button for that, SQRT, and you put in the number, and here we go, square root of x. And all of these are the square roots of these numbers. If you have, if you wanted to multiply x with the square root of x, so then we have x multiplied by square root of x, then we can simply do this times this. That's option 1. The other option is to write it as product, and then this, comma, this. And it basically gives you, so you can use either a direct product formula, or you can use, manually putting the multiplications in. Now, some of the other more used functions are, so I'm going to make a list of them here. So we have the count function, average function, sum function, average function, median, mode, standard deviation, variance, right? Now you can manually, if you have raw data, all of these become very easy to use in Excel. If you have frequency distribution tables, you have to be very careful, because now that's a grid and not just a single number that's being considered. So for the count function, the formula is simply count, gives you the total number. So how many observations do we have? Notice that I put in the whole range here for count. Similarly, for the sum function, put an equal to sign. You can choose sum. Now I just want to show you a little trick also in Excel. Say that you don't know how to use the sum function, right? Now click on this, the function button right here, and then choose what you want, click on it, click OK, and Excel will tell you what kind of formula you need to enter. I just noticed that because I had already typed in the sum, there is a problem. So we're going to start again. So here, I'm going to insert function. I just picked sum. Now I want to sum these numbers, right? So number from A1 to A16. I'm going to include the A simply because I want to show you that if it is not a number, it'll automatically not count it, even though it is in there, right? So the sum of these numbers, also a quick way, once you highlight this on the side of your screen, you should see a count, average, and sum. So you don't even have to enter these formulas in every time. For the average, again, it's simple. I'm going to teach you another trick. Pick the first number, right? And then you can hit Control Shift. Sorry, I don't know what I did. So average of A2 no. So click on this and then Control Shift. It'll pick the entire region. So the average of these numbers is 24. Again, median. I click on this and then Control Shift down. It'll give me the median, the mode. I don't think there is any mode in this because the number is repeated, but there is no mode. Standard deviation. Now, for standard deviation, you have two formulas. One is for the population and one is for the sample. So be careful about how your example is set up and choose which one to use. In standard deviation, again, you can just pick this number, Control Shift down. It'll take all of these numbers, count only the numerical values, and it'll give you a standard deviation. Variance, again, it's just variance of the sample. Control Shift bottom. And we have the variance. Okay, I think that this covers the first half of your PowerPoint, and I hope that this was helpful. And I will continue to put up more videos later.